Good morning, I'm Chris Fox, and today we're starting a brand new video series. This video series is pretty special. It is following up on what we used to launch this channel almost exactly a year ago. So for those that don't know, the channel began with the 21-day novel challenge. And in that challenge, I wrote and edited the novel Destroyer, which has gone on to be my most popular book to date. And every day I recorded a video showing exactly what I was doing. You have to take a peek into Scrivener to see what I did, how I overcame plot problems. You saw the writing, the editing, and ultimately the publication all kind of under a microscope. Well, fast forward 12 months, and I've gotten a ton of questions. I still get questions every day about how I'm doing what I'm doing. People also want to know, how have I optimized my process? What's changed since I did the 21-day novel challenge? And quite a lot is the answer. So I decided it was time to do a new series, and I looked at kind of what I was doing in my own professional life, and I'm about to embark on a trilogy. Hence the name, 12 Weeks to a Trilogy. So what you're going to see me do is over the next 3 months, I'm going to write and edit an entire trilogy of novels. So a little under 200,000 words. I'm also going to work a prequel novella in there that I'm going to use as a reader magnet. Those of you that are familiar with my books know what that is. And you're going to get to see every step of this as these projects come together. So you'll see how I plot all three at once, how the writing goes, when the editing is happening, how it's working. And instead of doing daily videos like I did with the 21-day novel challenge, since I want to keep my sanity, I'm going to switch to weekly videos. So each week you'll get a video that's going to highlight what happened that week. You'll see what writing was done, what I'm projecting to do for the next week, and you'll get kind of a play-by-play of the entire process. So hopefully you find that useful. In the rest of this video, the intro, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I've already done, some of the pre-writing, as well as the cover art that I've commissioned for this series, because one of the things I always do is get the covers done first before I even write the books. So without further ado, let's jump into the video and you can take a look at what I've already done. So as you can see, I've had this phenomenal artwork created. It was not cheap, but it definitely is worth it. And what I did here is I spelled out for the artist, I gave him a mock-up, and I told him where each of the important elements was going to be, the things that I needed. And those are, I needed to show a mech, because this is going to be on the front cover of the book, and this is really what's going to get reader interest. People love mechs, or at least my audience does. Below that you can see a couple of guys in power armor. This is Commander Nolan, and this back here is Lieutenant Hannon. So both of those are characters from my previous book, as is this mech here. This is Edwards. So if you've read Destroyer or any part of the Void Ray trilogy, you know who these people are. But that's kind of immaterial because I want this series to be standalone. There's a reason why I write in trilogies. So people who have not read the first trilogy should be able to jump right into this, and the fact that they're seeing a mech on the cover is really going to draw the eye. Then you can see on this side of the image what I call a planet strider. So planet striders are ancient creatures that have been enslaved and had cybernetics bolted onto them, and they're weapons of war now. And they stand many hundreds of feet tall, and you can see it's just wreck and shop here. And I think the visuals here are very powerful, and that's going to work in my favor. So I've taken this cover art and I've mocked up a couple of covers while I wait for the real typography. So this is the first one. You can see behind the lines, that's the title of the first book. And I've got the mech, all the central elements that I need to really get my target audience to zero in on this. And then you can see my reader magnet, which I always do, also done. I'm getting two pieces from the cover art I've received, both the reader magnet and the first book. I'm getting my cover out of that. And when those are done through the process of these videos, you'll see them. I'll show you some real typography and how great they're going to look. But I really wanted to know before I had the typography created how these would look as thumbnails. So I've shrank these down as small as they can go. I've looked at them next to other book covers on Amazon. And because of this nice saturation of blue, they really pull the eye. People love the explosions, and I've got some great feedback through the people that have seen them thus far. I know I've stressed this before, but I'm going to do it again. It is critical that you have an amazing cover if you expect your book to succeed, and I believe you've got to get it done before you're writing your books. And because I'm doing a trilogy, I actually have the covers for books 2 and 3 being created as we speak, so they'll be done way in advance. I can use those both as promotional materials, and I have the certainty of knowing that all the covers for this series are done so that I'm not going to be left in the lurch by an artist that suddenly disappears. So there you have it. That's what the covers look like. I would invite any questions that you might have. Go ahead and post those in the comments, and I'd be happy to answer those in a Q&A video. But let's go ahead and jump into the Scrivener document, and I'm going to show you the pre-writing. Okay, so as you can see, I've done a fair amount of world building here in this document. I started with my general notes. This was the very first file that was created. Most of this plot has already been altered and is not going to make it into the book, but this gave me a starting point along with a couple of possible titles. And as you can see, I settled on one of those, Behind Enemy Lines, or Behind the Lines. Let's go ahead and change that right now, Behind the Lines. And then I wrote myself a pitch A, like how do I want to sell this book? What is it about? And this was a more refined version of the general notes. I've gotten a little more information about what it is that I'm writing. And from here, I started building things like enemy races. So you can see that I've got a couple of different enemy races. And originally, I was trying to decide, okay, did I want my quote-unquote bad guys to be the Saurians or the Ganog? I've made these two races up in my head. And ultimately, I decided to use both of them. So the Ganog are in charge, and the Saurians, by and large, are slaves for the Ganog. And I kind of like the way that setup has come together. It was organic. It's something that I brainstormed over a period of days. So what I would do is I'd open this file up, and you would see, every day a couple more files getting added. So maybe 15, 20 minutes a day while writing the Great Pack. Towards the end of the day, I'd kick back and just do a little bit of plotting. And from that, you've seen a lot of world building come out of it. This really builds a lot more on top of the Voidwraith trilogy, which was somewhat bare bones. If you go back now and you watch the 21-day novel challenge, you'll see that there are a lot of areas that are very light on description. I didn't do as much world building as I probably should have with the abbreviated timeline. And so this time around, I'm trying to fix that. So after I'd finished my basic research, I jumped into characters. And this includes both older characters that were in the first book, people like Catherine or Edwards. But I've now added a bunch of new ones, like the Ganog Rebel, you're going to see, is a very important character. Burke, he's going to be similar to Mills for those that have read the Voidwraith trilogy. Carr is still there, so you see familiar faces. And I'm still fleshing some of these out. Some of them have almost no details, so I found a piece of artwork that I thought was great, and I decided she needed to be a character, but I have no details about her yet, so right now she's called New Chick. We'll see who she morphs into through the writing. And once I had kind of a general flow for the characters, where I started jumping into the book itself. So you can see I've got it broken into 3-act structure. The first act has the most amount of detail, and a lot of these chapters are fleshed out. The second act still's got a ways to go, and then the third act has almost nothing. And one thing that I did that was different this time around is I actually did a little bit of pre-writing. So I've never really done this before with a project. Normally I would just leap right in, but I sort of felt the need to do some discovery writing. So I wrote a prologue, which is about 1,200 words long, and then I wrote the first chapter, which is also about 1,200 words long. So I have, 2,500 words of this project written, which may or may not make it into the final, but writing these 2 chapters helped me so much in defining a lot of the factors of this book. So I don't know, some people may think that's cheating that I did a little bit of writing ahead of time, but it really, again, helped me to sort of craft the tale that I'm trying to tell, and I felt that it was useful to do that, so that's why I'm mentioning it here. That's a pretty good look at what I've got done so far. Not a ton. This has come together over probably the last 4 weeks, and I would guess that I have maybe 6 or 7 hours total into this document, but that's going to serve as a starting point, and in the coming videos, you're going to see this grow a lot. So hopefully this is useful. If it is, please let me know in the comments. Feel free to ask any questions that you have, and I am happy to answer them.